Welcome back to the Two Berry Girls podcast. I'm your co-host Malika.
And I'm your co-host Tammy.
So I was scrolling Instagram this morning and I saw this article pop up about how people just feel like giving up and they're just feeling very like goblin mode, which I thought was hilarious because we just recorded an episode about that girl content and how we find it so inspiring. But there is totally this like antithesis of like that girl content, which is like feral girl summer and like goblin mode, and I thought it was just so funny.
I love that you sent me this article this morning because the title instantly grabbed my attention, and the title is Slobbing Out and Giving Up, Why Are So Many People Going Goblin Mode? And it's published by The Guardian, and the author is Carrie Paul. And as soon as I read that headline, I instantly had a moment of like existential crisis and was like, did I go goblin mode? And I didn't even realize it during the pandemic.
Same.
I was like, what is this? So as like you get into the article, it's talking about how people just started to kind of stop caring about how they looked. And with everything that was going on in the pandemic, they started feeling like, what's the point? And just kind of gave up on just like how they looked and kind of any type of like routine or lifestyle.
Yeah. Like a very like who gives a fuck attitude.
Yeah, like it's the end anyways. And so they're saying how there's like a lot of sentiments that are leading to like nihilism, which I thought was interesting. And it's like, are we really this hopeless as a society? But maybe after so many years of a pandemic, maybe we're at that point.
I feel like there's hope. Because if we just look at just the ratio of how many people view that girl content versus how many people view goblin mode content on TikTok, it's like 3.4 billion for that girl and 300k views for goblin mode. So I feel like maybe it's a smaller segment of people, but their feelings are definitely valid as well, because there's definitely times in the pandemic like was not showering for a good week.
But if you're like truly feeling like you're a goblin, are you really making content? Like, wouldn't more that girl routines, if people are feeling like positive and they're having like these like healthy habits, they're more inclined to make content versus like if you've just kind of like given up on life, you're probably not making content. So maybe
that's
the number
fair.
of like the hashtag or the views on the hashtag are not representative of like the true feeling and vibe of like people.
Okay. That makes sense. I can't biz stats my way through this one.
Well, okay, so that's interesting. There's like some quotes in here. Someone had said, Goblin mode is kind of the opposite of trying to better yourself, says Juniper, who declined to share her last name. I would do the same. And she said, I think it's the kind of energy that we're all giving going into 2022. Everyone's just kind of wild and insane right now. So that's interesting because I feel like there's been so many points in the pandemic where people are like, oh, we're towards the bend, and people start trying to make like tentative plans. And it's like, okay, well, we only had to shelter in place back in 2022 or 2020. Wow. And they were saying, oh, like in June or July. And then everyone's like, oh, for sure by the summer. And then that came and went. And then they just kept moving that like, goalpost.
It just kept like breadcrumbing us.
Yeah. And so then it was like, oh, summer of 2021. I know that was like super hype. Like, oh my God, everyone's going to go crazy. It's like this summer where everyone's just going to like live it up. And that never happened. But I think it did happen in Florida. I think like everyone in Florida was like, fuck this. Just continue to live their life. But like here we are sitting in the Bay Area, like, when will it be our turn? Like, when can we leave? And then I was thinking that 2022, this summer is going to be a big summer. I know so many people have already planned spring break trips and they're traveling.
My friends are already traveling.
They're
like in Mexico.
But then it seems like there are a lot of people who still are feeling very goblin mode, you know?
Yeah, I do feel like there is a sentiment around feeling very goblin mode. I like what this one person said, Peter Hayes, a Bay Area tech worker. He said that him and his friends have jokingly called themselves goblins, and then at home they feel like there's no social pressure to follow any norms, so they just like lost the habit.
Do you think also the Bay Area's always had like such a casual vibe? So like that threshold of like having your shit together and not having your shit together is a very thin line here.
That is so
Like we
true.
are like the land of like, you know, flannels, and like it's so weird to see like that type of like the Bay Area dude outfit now getting popularized around the world.
Yeah.
And like Balenciaga, like a lot of their like menswear, I'm like, that just looks like a Bay Area dude. And he would never pay like thousands of dollars for the outfit. He would get that flannel from Costco. And those
Yeah.
would be like old Levi's. Like it's just so weird.
It's so
But
true.
I mean, they're saying for a lot of women, they didn't have to wear like makeup during the pandemic. They were wearing sweatpants. And there was just kind of like this breaking down of like what the patriarchy like spoon feeds to women. This is what you need to do in order to look like not just presentable, but desirable. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going out and you're not needing to be in those social settings where like people are judging your external appearance, like does that lead to you just being more comfortable and like falling into goblin mode?
Yeah.
Or is goblin mode more about like a mental health space? Like, is it not actually about how you look, but it's like about how you feel?
I think that's pretty profound. This is more deep than I was thinking about it. I thought it was more surface, and it was about like how you're just like looking, but I kind of see what you're saying. I think it's more so about how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling like we're all fucked,
Yeah.
then you're not going to try.
These are also like low key signs of depression.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a slippery slope. And if you see someone, or if even you start feeling you're seeing these things in yourself, it's like so important to like ask for help. If you're feeling like I just like can't get out of bed, I'm just like sleeping more, you're like giving up your everyday habits of like showering and brushing your teeth, like just kind of these like daily hygiene habits, right? That's like a sign of some depression. So like, is it that people are kind of making fun of this like state? Or I think it has to do more with like mental health, like a decline in mental health because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see like my friends that are like already traveling right now. Like I personally don't feel comfortable traveling abroad right now. Large gatherings give me social anxiety now. Like I would have to like work my way up towards like doing an international trip. So I feel like it kind of makes sense. Like everyone's going to like bounce back on their own timeline. So if you're feeling goblin mode right now, like so are a lot of people.
Yeah. And if you go back and listen to our episode about that girl routine, we share a lot about kind of our mental health during the pandemic. Malika's more of an introvert and I'm more of an extrovert. So staying at home for that long and not having kind of that social outlet, I think really did turn me into goblin mode. Like I was like, I'm not doing well.
Yeah.
And I feel like through small changes and like just daily habits have helped me get out of that funk where I don't really feel goblin mode that much. But when you sent me this article this morning, I was like, I definitely felt like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, what's the point? Like, this is crazy. Like, everything's gone to shit.
Yeah, I feel like I was more goblin mode, more of like 2021 versus 2020. Because I still could remember how painful like my BART commute was. So like, I liked it. Like being able to work remotely and whatnot.
Yeah.
But as the time went on, my room slowly turned into goblin mode.
That's so true. And we've said this before in another podcast episode of like the pandemic has been a major mindfuck. So have patience with yourself, give yourself grace, and whether you're on the spectrum of goblin mode or feeling like goblin, or you're in that girl routine, like it's okay. It's a spectrum, and I'm sure people doing that girl routines felt like goblins, and goblins now are feeling like that girl. So it's it's all fluctuating. But I think the thing that helped me was talking to you about like how I'm feeling. So definitely if you're feeling goblin like, please talk to someone. There's like a lot of different resources. A lot of people are feeling this way, so you're definitely not alone.
Yeah. Let us know if you feel like a goblin right now, or you feel like a that girl.
Yeah, let us know, and we'll be back next time with another episode of Two Barrier Girls. Thanks so much for listening, and we're a new podcast, so definitely leave us a review and follow us on Spotify and Apple, and we're on Instagram at Two Barrier Girls.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, take care.